Hey, what's up? This is Aphid here. A while ago we took a look at Dorise Aron and I was quite positive about them based on the product pictures that were on their website. Fortunately, they were able to send me a couple of things to do a bit of a mini review on, so thank you very much to those guys for that one. Specifically the FT01T, the FJ01 Naragi, the FL01 long sleeve and the P06 pants. With blacked out colouring, tapered cuts, oversized styling, the odd additional feature too, there's potentially a lot to like with this stuff. So let's get right down to it and take a look at these individual pieces and have a look at what they're like. First up, the P06 pants. These were the things that I was most excited about, I think, because it's quite unusual to get nice, wide-fitting, tapered, cropped pants at an affordable price. These come in around about $75. I thought they looked pretty comfy and nice, and while they are fairly comfortable, the sizing was a little bit weird in that normally I would buy large for pretty much any pants, so these showed up in a large, and they are actually a little bit wide. I have to use a belt to make sure that these stay up nicely. And if you have a look at the fit here, around the thighs they do billow out massively, so it doesn't create a particularly flattering silhouette. I'm not sure if that's down to the tailoring and they just come out like that naturally, or it's a side effect of these being a little bit big on the waist. That doesn't seem as pronounced in the model pic, so as I say, it may be a sizing issue rather than a tailoring one, but yeah, the looseness of these on me doesn't really seem ideal fit-wise. The shape at the bottom, however, is much nicer. It does have a little bit of a taper to it, and a nice relaxed fit all the way down with a cropped length, which as I said earlier is pretty unusual, but there is a little Velcro tab at the bottom, so you can adjust that quite a lot too, and you can actually give these quite an aggressive taper. I think that side of things works, and it's always good for one garment to provide multiple looks. Around the waist, you'll find multiple ways of keeping these held up. You can either tighten with cords or there's belt loops as well. So again, some more flexibility there. If you want the traditional techwear dangle thing, you can leave the cords undone and then use a belt, and that'll do the job just fine. But features wise, that's pretty much all you're getting. There's 4 pockets on here, as you might expect, 2 on the front, 2 on the back. They're not particularly deep, and they are pretty thin feeling as well. They have a bit of a basic feel about them, and that's the case for the material generally. It's not uncomfortable or scratchy, but it certainly doesn't feel like a high quality garment. And being linen, while you can expect some breathability, these aren't going to get too hot and stuffy, you certainly cannot expect any water resistance. So these are not an all-weather pair of pants by any means. There were 1 or 2 minor imperfections, which actually is the case for this stuff across the board. Specifically on these, the stitching around the buttonhole didn't really seem to be done that well, so you can, when you put the button through, accidentally put it through a loose bit of stitching and then it kind of gets stuck and it's a bit of a pain to undo. That kind of thing seems to be common with this stuff. It's one of those things where as the price of stuff goes down, quality of course is going to take a hit as well, and that is the kind of thing that you might find issue with. Easy to sort out, of course. If you find these little bits, you can just cut them away, but I thought it was worth mentioning because that's how the product comes out of the packet. Moving on to the long sleeve tee now, this was unexpectedly my favourite of the 4. This comes in at something like $35. It's got a pretty decent fit to it, I think. These days I would normally wear medium on stuff. This is a large, and it's a little bit of a relaxed fit, but I don't think it's too big. There's a couple of things that elevate this above your bog standard plain long sleeve t-shirt. Firstly, there's a long stitch that goes down the center of the t-shirt vertically on both the front and the back. It gives it a nice little bit of detail without it being like a big over-the-top graphic tee or anything, and I think it works quite well and I like it. You'll also find some cuffs with thumb holes. These are a little bit snug on my hands, but they do the job just fine. My hands are pretty big as well, so if you've got normal size hands, you'll probably be alright. This is the kind of thing that's useful for layering underneath a jacket or even under a pair of gloves. It gives you a little bit of extra warmth, protection, and coverage. They did decide to put a pocket on one side of this t-shirt, which is a little bit of a meme, like you don't have to put pockets on everything for it to be techwear or not techwear, but it's actually not as bad as I thought it would be. I think aesthetically, it makes things look a little bit more interesting without going too overboard and putting like loads of pockets everywhere. You could certainly do worse than this. It is big enough to fit any phone in as well, and doing so doesn't actually send the whole t-shirt off center or pull it as much as I thought it would. So again, that's another positive for it. I'm pretty unlikely to ever use this pocket anyway, and I still wouldn't say it's like a super useful inclusion or anything, but I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that it's not totally stupid and it's fairly tasteful as these things go. The tee has a raw edge looking finish, although it is actually stitched on the underside, so it's not going to totally pull apart, although as a result of that it does mean that it suffers from that classic kind of turn up raw edge thing that these kinds of products seem to do. It's pretty inevitable, it just kind of comes with the style, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Next, the tee, the FT01. For some reason they sent this in an XL, so it's a little bit oversized on me. I would say same kind of fit as the long sleeve, so maybe go one size up from your regular if you want a little bit relaxed, or you could always take your regular size if you want quite a snug fit. This oversized fit on me does make it pretty comfy though, so this is probably the kind of thing that I'll wear for lounging around the house. And coming in at about $27, it's not too much of an outlay, which is good. The front graphic of high-tech low life is a little phrase used to very succinctly describe cyberpunk as a style. Having that on there is maybe a little bit cringy, I think, but it could be worse. It could say like cyber hacker or something, I guess. The back though is a bit more interesting. It's got a much bigger graphic, which looks quite cool to its credit, and it includes a quote from William Gibson. He's a near-future science fiction writer who has included fictional techwear-esque brands in his work that resemble things like Acronym, and he does have some kind of friendship with Errolson Hugh as well. So in that sense, it's quite an appropriate person to use a quote from. I don't hate the graphic by any means, although the semi-grungy kind of look is not quite to my taste, and I feel like it has a bit of a fake distressed look to it. I would prefer this t-shirt if they either just kept it clean, just kept that graphic on the back, or they went further the other way and went for a much more natural, much more complete distressing for a much more grungy style. And finally, the Naragi. They sent this one because they didn't have the actual jacket that I wanted available, so this was a little bit of a replacement, and this one comes in around about $75. Honestly, unfortunately, this one was a little bit of a disappointment to me. The fit of it, I think, is really nice. It's very flowy, it has that oversized look. It's exactly the kind of style that you would want from a Naragi. The material is quite coarse without really feeling that durable. The pockets kind of suffer from the same thing as the pants of feeling very basic. And they have these kind of excess bits of material on as well. And there's also this velvet-esque trim which is on some parts of this, and I think that combined with the material makes this look a little bit like a costume piece rather than an actual item of clothing. And while in general I have no problem with people wearing things from other cultures, I think that costume-like appearance combined with the fact that this is a traditional Japanese garment, it's Japanese workwear effectively, it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable wearing it. I think when you're adopting things like this from other cultures, it's important to look like you're paying homage and, you know, being respectful to these things rather than looking like you're trying to make a costume out of this stuff. I know that's a bit of a contentious topic. It's not really something that I wanted to debate in this video, but it's just something that felt apparent to me when I was wearing it. There are also two zipped pockets on this, so if you're wearing this as an overshirt or as your outerwear piece, you've got a little bit of security there. They're a little bit awkward to access because of the positioning and because they kind of go half into the unzipped pockets, but I guess if you're putting something in there a bit more long term, it's not as much of a problem. Also in terms of features, there is a jacket sling on this, strangely enough, or a Naragi sling, I suppose. I'm not really 100% sure of the reason why you would want this, of the potential utility, because it is quite lightweight. It's essentially an overshirt, or a kind of overshirt. You can just roll this up and squeeze it into a bag super easily. And because it's not water resistant either, you don't need to carry it to let it kind of dry off or anything like that. I guess if you're the kind of person that does get too hot or too cold super easily and you're constantly taking things on and off, then you might find it useful, but I feel like for most people, you're going to be better off just rolling it up and sticking it in a bag if you don't want to wear it. And finally, just for the sake of it, I thought I would throw all these things together in a full outfit. I also added the Outlier Fuck It hat, the Gorilla Group grid tank, and a pair of Y3 retro boosts as well. To an extent, I think all of these pieces contribute to a consistent and a cohesive aesthetic. So from that perspective, I think Dorise Aron has done a good job of keeping a specific look and then bringing that through their entire collection of clothing. Personally, I'd feel a little bit self-conscious wearing this outside. I think that's partly to do with the Naragi, as I mentioned earlier, and it's a little bit much, I think, to me. It's a little bit out there. I'm a little bit more of a conservative dresser. You could certainly lose the Naragi and the hat here, and you'd have a much more casual, more wearable look. If you're going for exactly this outfit, I think the pants could possibly be longer here because the top half is quite extended, but that's something that's really up to you. And of course, remember that a lot of this Dorise Aron stuff, certainly none of the things that I featured in this video, really can qualify as techwear because they don't have that material performance. They're not going to protect you from wind or rain or any kind of bad conditions. I'd put this more into the sort of avant-garde, cyber goth, that kind of ballpark rather than techwear, but it's a very related area for sure. So to conclude on this stuff, yes, it certainly is cheap. It's much more affordable than a lot of the things that I've talked about in these videos. But it wasn't quite the great techwear at an affordable price that I was hoping for. In my opinion, for now, that still goes to brands like the North Face, Uniqlo, Patagonia, kind of military surplus stuff as well, I think has its place. Although I appreciate that none of those things are necessarily the aesthetic that people are looking for. So I think the search is still very much out for things that combine the techwear look, some kind of techwear performance, and still have some kind of affordability too. However, I do think that this stuff could be integrated into techwear outfits with some success, particularly things like the long sleeve tee when they're layering pieces, but they can just kind of show their faces in a little interesting way. If you are looking for those big techwear brands though, I don't really think this is the affordable alternative. You're better off just saving up and then going for those things that you really want instead. Otherwise, you probably won't be satisfied. However, the existence of this stuff does provide a gateway, I think, for people who maybe can't afford right now, or they want to dabble in the idea of techwear without committing fully to investing in what are very expensive pieces. Or maybe you just like the look of this stuff on its own merit without really wanting or needing to integrate it into techwear. I may have just been a little bit unlucky with this stuff. As I say, the jacket that I wanted wasn't available, so the Naragi was a kind of alternative option, and I feel like I might have got on better with the jacket. And the sizing on the pants as well was maybe not quite right, which maybe contributed negatively to the overall look of them. So I would definitely say pay close attention to sizing with this stuff, measure up against some other things that you've already got to ensure that the fit of these is going to be the way that you want it. So a little bit hit and miss all in all, but do have a little look around anyway, because there might be something on the website which has been the kind of thing that you're after, or as I say, maybe you fall into that category where the more premium techwear brands just simply are not an option for you, but it's a style that maybe you want to have a look at anyway. I certainly think that there are worse brands than this to get involved with, because to an extent they are coming up with their own stuff. They're not just knocking off other brands. These aren't reps of acronym stuff or whatever. And because you can buy this stuff direct from their website, you're not going to get mugged off by those various pages out there that just resell the Chinese brands at a much higher markup. So while the quality might be pretty basic, the prices are pretty reasonable. So those are my thoughts on Dorise Aron. Do let me know what you guys think about the brand. I know some of you have already picked up a few things from these guys. I think people have had some success with the jackets, so if that's you, if you've ordered some of this stuff before, then do stick your thoughts down there in the comments, because I'm sure it's going to be super useful for other people. And if you enjoyed the video, please do remember to hit that like button. It is much appreciated. And of course, I will be back very soon with another video. Shout out to Slack Tech. That is a very good point actually about the social anxiety aspect. On the one hand, yeah, it makes you more anonymous and people aren't looking at you specifically, but the reality is if you walk around wearing a face mask, people are probably going to stare at you. And shout out to CavEmpt, same. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you want to check out some more, there's going to be links going up at the top. And if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely consider doing so, because there's going to be loads more techwear videos, as there already has been. There's like 120 videos now on this channel, which is mad. Never thought I would do this much stuff. But anyway, if you want to subscribe, you want to see future things, hit the little button on the side and then you can do it.